Welcome to season 2 of Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne, your anxiety influencer and your host. In this season, we're going to dive deeper into what wealth really means, looking at how, as a recovering anxious woman, I get through day to day, week to week, and I'm going to be sharing the tools, the magic, and the things that I do daily to help me get through. I would also love to hear more from you in this season. You can reach out to me on my socials, on my email. You can send me an email explaining your anxiety issues, whether you're recovering or going through some things right now. And if it resonates with you, I would love to have you on the show so we can share our stories, because we're all together in this. Now let's get on with today's episode. Before I forget, podcast goes live every single Friday on your favorite podcast streaming website and over on YouTube if you prefer to watch. And every Wednesday on YouTube, you'll find my Wealth Live vlog where I just share my day to day. So if you're nosy like me and you want to know how I navigate through life, that's where you want to be on Wednesday. Hello, I'm so happy it's season 2. And I think this is a really good point just to start with, because I'm going to dive deep today. And season 1, I think, was 106 episodes, and I hadn't really taken any time to take a break from recording and having guests scheduled in and thinking about what was coming next and content for all of that time. So whatever 106 episodes, maybe I think it was two years most weeks. So I'm going to dive into that today. But if you're watching on YouTube, welcome to my new space. I have my beautiful black wall behind me. If you're listening on your favorite podcast streaming website, so I've painted the studio. I have all my crystals behind me, still have my signs. I've actually moved upstairs now and into my boudoir, I called it. So now I have everything that I need in this room: my clothes, my toiletries, my podcast, my yoga. So welcome. I actually feel really excited. I don't know if it's just because I now have the black wall that my 16-year-old self always dreamed of. I don't know if any of you also wanted to paint your wall black when you were a teenager, but we had to settle for purple. But I have it. I have the wall. And I've also sat back and started to, before today, I sat back and started to reassess the podcast and where I was going with the podcast and the guests that I was having on. And once I decided to take a few weeks off for before I launched season 2, that's really allowed me to go through previous episodes and have a look at what you guys really want to listen to. And the podcast episodes that do the best and I get the most questions or feedback from are the ones that I share my own stories and how I get through them, and when the guests come on and share their own stories, but also with a sprinkle of magic, spirituality, manifestation, all of the things. And that is the angle that I think that resonates with myself the most as well. So that is where we're going to go with season 2. And you will have heard it in the intro. I do also want to hear from you. If you have a story to tell, if you are a recovering anxious woman, or you are still anxious right now and you don't know where to turn, let me know. And if it resonates with you, I would love to have you on as a guest and we can talk it through. So please let me know. And yeah, let's get on with today's episode. Well, I nearly forgot. I had the cards out on the desk because I want to bring back the cards. So let me give these a little bit of a shuffle. So I used to do this I'm going to move them away from the mic. I used to do this when I first started my podcast, and then I stopped for some reason. And I used to share this in my Facebook group as well. So we're going to start with a card pull, then we'll get into the episode. So I'm going to do this at the start of every episode. So even though this is a group card pull, hopefully it will resonate with you. And this is a present, what is going on right now card pull. I'm actually using the Rebecca Campbell Rose Oracle cards. I will leave that there. If you're on YouTube, you can have a look at the beautiful box. So what have we pulled out here? Plant yourself here. Integration, embodiment, grounded action. And I love the artwork on these pictures. I'll pop a little picture if you're watching on YouTube so you can have a look at the card. It is a beautiful lady and she is stood. She has roots into the ground. Let's see what the book says. Plant yourself here. Now using my skim and scan skills to find this, which I still do have actually, even though I've not been teaching or studying or, I research, but not from books as much anymore. But I still have my skim and scan. Okay, let's see what it says. Invite your soul to come all the way in. From your knees to your nose, your cheeks to your toes, fully embody your life. Drop the defensive walls, let your soul land and occupy each and every cell. Anchor all parts of you into the here and now. Life is here even when death is here. Birth isn't possible without it. And you came here to birth this world anew. Don't you remember? Fully commit to living this life. Put your 2 feet and your ancient soul wholly and completely in. This is the card of the one who's committed to being the bridge between heaven and earth, the embodied mystic. They know that they don't need to denounce either heaven or earth. Rather, they are a weaver of worlds, here to embody their soul more and more with each new day, here to weave the sacred back into everyday life. This card is an invitation to commit more fully to your life as a soul having a human experience, to invite your soul to grow roots that reach deep so you can grow tall, to commit to your humanity and your expansion at once. The rose invites us to embrace all stages of life on earth, from the buds to the bloom, from the cutting back the fruit. Her beauty and sweet scent are an embodiment in heaven, a nectarous reward for being here. The rose reminds us to take a moment to properly enjoy the sweetness and that heaven can really be a place on earth. And there's a question here, how can you commit more to your life? That is so on point for what we're going to talk about today, especially how to commit more to your life. So just leading on from that and what I want to talk about today and how you can commit more to life. So as you know, I've had a little tiny break from the podcast so I could decorate and think about season 2 and have a look at the episodes. And what I want to talk about today is burnout, and specifically wellness burnout, because it is a thing. And especially if you, like myself, I work in wellness for a start, but I also want to live a life of wellness, a life of wealth. This is my brand. This is what I'm all about. But it can get to a point, if we're not careful, that we do face burnout from exactly the things that we're doing that we don't want that we're trying to avoid that burnout. We're trying to make sure that we don't get burnout by having this huge list of things that we do. And then we get burnout, we get fatigue from it. Just an example here for myself, the podcast, and season 1 was 106 episodes. I don't know if there's a standard number, and but when I reflected, it's like, gosh, I hadn't actually taken a break from doing the podcast, and I was just churning out episodes and having guests on the show, and not really feeling that connection over the last couple of months to the podcast and what I was putting out, and having the time to record and not having the space and giving myself the space to enjoy it, along with other things that I have a huge list that I was doing. So meditation and yoga and making sure I move for 30 minutes every day and incorporating rest into this and eating right, and the list is endless. And I got to a point before I took some time off in this, it is still summer here. It's still summer in the UK as well if you're listening in the UK. But before I actually put the brakes on, because I felt like I was just all over the place and I didn't really know where I was going with anything, because I was trying to fill too much into my cup when I didn't really know how much I had in the cup, how much space I had in the cup. Anyway, I hope that metaphor makes sense. And that's what I want to talk about today. Burnout, wellness burnout, and how I managed to navigate it and feel that I'm ready again now that I've been able to reflect. And I think that's going to be a word that comes up a lot today, is reflection. So when I think back to, let's just the last 6 months, I know we're in August, but I took some time off. So the first 6 months of the year, and I had such a huge, so of course I'm teaching yoga, I'm working online, I recording my podcast, also at the same time having my private clients, looking for other ways to fill in gaps that I thought that I had, especially financially. And in season 1, I spoke a lot about money. I will be coming back to that because that is one of the things that spirals my anxiety. If I feel like there is a lack, and again, this is mindset for me and my money mindset, but if I start to feel like there's a lack somewhere, it all then comes down to money, and I start grasping at things that I don't need to grasp at. So, for example, looking for jobs that I don't want to have because I feel like I need to fill this gap and this is where it's going to come from. And I'm still very conditioned from that, even though I'm trying to do all of the work. But then the wellness burnout comes from trying to do all of the work. So making sure that when I wake up in the morning, I'm having my pinch of Himalayan salt with lemon water, and recently made the switch to decaf coffee, and making sure that, so I changed my diet. You can go and listen to the cholesterol podcast. So I changed my diet, and then I had this random twitch in my leg, which triggered my health anxiety. So I'm going to do another episode on health anxiety, but this random twitch. So of course, my best friend ChatGTP, which I know is a cheat because I don't Google my symptoms anymore, but asking ChatGTP still is the same thing. Anyway, so ChatGTP suggested, because I changed my diet just like that, and that's how it was. And if you have anxiety, you may be the same as me, that when someone tells you to do something, it's your anxiety kicks in and then you do it to the letter. So when I went for my blood test and my cholesterol was high, from that day I was like, right, I'm changing my diet. So then obviously my body was like, whoa, what's going on? And so now I'm taking my calcium tablets, my vitamin D, all of the supplements. Then I'm also trying to move my body, not just teaching yoga. But when you're a yoga teacher, or if you work in wellness, or you'll know from your job, sometimes when your job, even though I love my job and I love teaching yoga, when I get home, the last thing I want to do is yoga some days, because I'm just like, oh gosh, my body aches, or I've done a class and then I've taught, and so then I sit on the sofa or I do something else. I also try and fit in trying to walk, even though it's summer here and I need to get out in nature. And this roller coaster, this bombardment of a list of things that I need to be doing, started to have the opposite effect of what I wanted. So instead of me feeling good about doing all these things, and that's not even me mentioning making sure that I meditate each day, I have stopped writing in my journal because again, I felt like that wasn't helping. So I'm doing that out loud now, but then having the guilt of not doing my moon rituals, and it all can get on top of you, and it will get on top of you if you allow it to, which is what I did for the first part of this year. When you have anxiety, or you worry, or you overthink, when you skip one of these things, you then have the guilt. So even yesterday, for example, even though I know when I'm doing this and I've sat down with myself, right, okay, you're doing too much, you're trying to squeeze too much in. If I forget one of these rituals all day, I'm like, oh god. So yesterday I didn't have my salt and lemon in the morning, and I just forgot. I was like, right, it's okay, nothing's gonna happen. Then I watched another podcast. I think it might have been Russell Brand, and he started his podcast with, we have to do all of these things. Did you know you need a pinch of salt in the morning? I was like, oh my God, even he's trying to remind me to take my salt, and I haven't done it this morning. And then it plays on my mind. So then the days where I've completely gone off, literally not taking my own advice to allow myself the rest, I started to then feel guilty because I wasn't doing these things. But then when I feel guilty, I start to not want to do them because then it's a chore and it's not a ritual and it's not something that I enjoy. And this is when I started as well to feel with the podcast that I was just churning out episodes without having that time to really sit and research and put my heart into it. So making that decision as well to right, I'm going to take 5-6 weeks off and launch a season 2. And at the same time, giving myself that rest and recovery time to reset a lot of the other things that I have been doing. And again, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that as I share a bit. So why does this happen? And again, reflecting on why this happened for me, I think a lot of it comes internally because I chose to do this for my career. So I should be perfect at it, right? I should be doing it and leading the way, and everything that I do should be right. I shouldn't skip a day. I should remember to take the supplements, have the salt. I should be doing yoga every day. I should be doing some kind of workout every single day because this is what I guide people to do to make themselves feel better. So I should be doing it. I also feel like there's an external pressure of social media. And again, I've spoken about this before, but the comparison, and again, if you suffer with anxiety, I think anxiety and perfectionism go hand in hand together because it's really hard to have that fear of not being perfect without that being anxiety. I may be wrong. You may not have anxiety listening to this, but also want things to be perfect. But in my head, I can't see how they're separate. Please reach out to me if you are able to be a perfectionist without being anxious, because I'd love to know how you do that. And then scrolling on social media. And I do think that I'm on top of this because I don't go on social media at the weekend. I have a complete, blanket, not going on my phone. I'll reply to a couple of WhatsApps if it's work related, but then I tend to not, I try and step back because I feel like that really gives me the reset. But then some days I will get into not doom scrolling because I'm very aware. I try not to do more than 20 minutes, but I will get into that mindset and start looking at other people and, they're doing this and she's doing that. And gosh, she does the same job as me and she seems to get way more clients than I do. And she must practice every day and she must do this every day. And I bet she's doing lots more courses. And my mind then completely spirals out of control on the comparison. And then it's that I'm not good enough. So the way that I make myself feel good enough is then, of course, forcing myself to do all of these things, even though with the intention of it's helping me to stay well, even though it's actually having the adverse effect on my mindset. If this episode is bringing you a little bit more wealth, please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. This allows other people, other women who need to hear these stories, find me. And again, if you have a story to share, please reach out to me on my email, joannewellth@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on my Instagram, joanne_wealth. I would love to have you on the show, or you can just type up and stay anonymous so we can share these stories with each other. Now let's get on with today's episode. And I know the morning routines have had a little bit of they've become a bit of a joke on social media now. And I actually think that's probably a good thing because we see these, you've probably seen the man who got up at 5 o'clock, and then 5:06 he's dipping his face in ice, and then 5:16 he's eating spinach, and then and it was very meticulous and very to the minute. And even though I know and I share with clients, and I've shared on my podcast before, that these things, he doesn't do that every day. I really don't believe it. And if he does, well done. But people who have a 9-to-5 and kids and a house to run and maybe tired, or also have their life running alongside, that is not sustainable. However, there's something in me that sees that and then thinks, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. And even though I know that that is not sustainable, I can say the words right now to you, that's not sustainable. I don't think that's real. But then there's that niggly thing in the back of my mind that's like, oh, well, you don't do that. Are you good enough? Is your routine actually worthy of, and it's this then spiral. And again, and it also happens, this wellness burnout, because we're not paying attention to our own inner voice, our own seasons. And I talk so much about women's health and hormones. I track mine to this day. I know when my anxiety is going to spike just after ovulation, but I still have that niggly feeling, or I've ignored for the past few months that actually I'm in my luteal phase, so it's okay to rest today, or tuning into my energy, and I've just completely ignored in my inner seasons. And again, I don't know where that stemmed from, because that's a new thing, that ignorance of my inner seasons. And I don't know if that's the pressure that I was putting on myself at the start of this year to fill those imaginary gaps. Because again, the anxiety, the financial anxiety of having to save for the wedding and summer, and it really did send me in a bit of a spiral. And this is the thing, if you have anxiety, that we all have, I'm not going to use the word trigger because I feel like that's thrown around too much, but we all have the one thing that sends us off. And mine is finances. So if I'm a little bit worried there about my finances, I start to pour this energy, this anxious energy, into other areas. Or in this case, what I thought I was doing was preparing my body and trying to look after myself, but I was actually using my anxious energy there, which then put me into this wellness burnout. So instead of me waking up every morning and actually have my lemon water here with me, instead of doing that and just like, this is just part of my routine, and having that guilt if I skipped, obviously now I haven't had my lemon water today, so everything's going to be a bad day. Instead of me just doing that and not even thinking about it, I was having this tick list of things to try and take my mind off where I was actually a little bit anxious and a little bit worried, and not also giving myself permission to be a little bit anxious and a little bit worried, because we're saving for the wedding. There's things that we want to do, and it's a big thing, and not just saying, it's actually okay to be worried about that, and let's sit down and see what we can do. And which I have, in retrospect, I have done that. So now I'm in my reclaiming my wellness era. So the first 6 months, I thought I was in my wellness era, but I was in my anxious wellness era. So the latter part of this year, I'm in my reclaiming my wellness era. And I'm going to do that. I've already started that. First of all, I took the break. So I went home in July, paused the podcast recording. Obviously, I wasn't teaching when I was at home. And that gave me a break in those rituals that I was putting pressure on myself from doing. And again, I talk so much about rituals, and they are important, but when you start doing them and having the guilt if you miss them, this is when you're entering that burnout phase that I did. So going home allowed me to reset that. I still had some of them with me. I didn't go home and just let everything go, but I started small. I went back to micro wellness. So what little things could I do without taking everything home with me to continue this wellness routine? I did the small things. I didn't go to the gym, so I usually make myself go to the gym when I'm at home, and I practice yoga, but I didn't do that either. I just took myself for walks. I didn't listen to podcasts or music when I was walking. I really allowed myself just to empty. I didn't want that extra noise. And I think embracing micro wellness is something that I might do an extra podcast just on embracing the micro wellness, because again, it goes against the grain of everything that we see on social media, that we've got to have this whole 90-minute routine. And I know I've spoken about the real morning routines in a video, but I'm going to revisit that. We'll do that in a few weeks' time. And allowing yourself just this micro wellness. So having a look at your routines, your rituals, and if you feel that they are overwhelming, which ones can you take and make them smaller? Which ones can you take away and maybe do once or twice a week? So you're not putting pressure on yourself to do them all, and really enjoying them, rather than, again, it shouldn't be a chore. Wellness isn't a chore. Wellness is there to make you feel good. So if you, like I was a few weeks ago, feeling that wellness burnout, take a pause, reassess, look at all the things that you're doing, give yourself permission to take some of those away. And what I've really started to do now is, yes, I have my rituals, and for some of these things we have to have the same day, especially if your ritual is going to a yoga class or going to the gym, and these are the set times that you have. Amazing. But also giving yourself permission, if you have something written in your schedule, or this is the day that you normally do XYZ, really tuning in. And if you are, especially if you're tracking your cycle and you know that you're coming up into the last 8 to 10 days of your cycle and you feel more tired, giving yourself permission to maybe skip the heavy weight session or the cardio and go for a walk. Still go to the gym, still keep that ritual, but change it slightly so it suits your body. And this is where our cycle tracking really comes in. I do have other podcasts in season 1 talking about cycle tracking, but just it's very self-explanatory. Start from today. Note down, if you know when your last period, your last bleed was, the day 1 of your last bleed, and then start to note down when you have any changes. So tired, grumpy, irritable, is that a word? Irritated, those moods that we get. And then you'll start to notice there's a pattern, and it might be the last 10 days you start to get these negative energy emotions, but at the beginning of your bleeds, so around day 7, you might be full of energy, and using that to then track and help you plan what it is you're doing, and also helping you to understand why you feel that way on a certain day. So for me, I think I'm actually bang on day 14 today, and I always feel a little bit more tired, a little bit more subdued. So today I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm going to the gym, I'm not going to do a heavy weight workout. I'm going to use a studio and do a yoga flow instead. I also did do a heavy weight workout yesterday, so I'm going to break that ritual there, because I would normally do Sunday and Monday. I'm going to listen to my body, honor where I'm at, because I know that I will feel good after a nice stretchy yoga flow, and that's okay. And that's one thing that I was forcing myself to do before I had this little reset. It's in my diary, so I have to do it, otherwise I'm a bad person. But you're not. Just allow yourself and give yourself that permission to let that go. And I think when we start to allow our wellness to be messy, and again, I think this pressure comes from social media, and I've heard friends who are mums talk about mumfluencers. I think I'm just making words up now. But friends talking about, they see these mums online and they have the crayons and colour order and all of this perfect. And again, it's not, we need to remind ourselves that these things are done to look that way through the screen. And they probably don't have their shit together like that all of the time. The same for wellness influencers. They're not going to post the days when they do feel crappy. But then we, on the other hand, see the perfect workout days and their perfect outfits and think, oh my gosh, that's what I aspire to be like, when really they're actually influencing. It's a negative influence, because it's forcing us to do things that don't suit us rather than inspiring. So take it, look at it, try not to be influenced by it, but maybe take a little bit of inspiration from it to oh, okay, that's something that I might add in when I have time or when I feel good. Or maybe that's not for me, and that's okay. Stop comparing yourself to these influencers you see online and allowing yourself to become your own inspiration. And it's only been, I think, maybe a month since I took my reset, and I do already feel better. I do already feel that I've got that space, I've got that time, I'm not stressing, although my little blip yesterday with the lemon and the salt water, but again, I'm allowing myself that blip. I'm laughing about it today, and the fact that I put Russell Brand on and he was talking about it, I thought, oh gosh, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. And it's just that little ritual that I have, and it's okay to miss it. And this is your reminder as well. Keep it messy. Keep it so it works for you. I'd love to hear your own thoughts, feelings on this. And again, if you have a story to tell, please reach out to me. I'm so happy that you're here for season 2. I hope you like the backdrop, the new black wall. Let me know. And I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I just want to end by reminding you that wealth really isn't about having money in the bank. It's about feeling at home in your mind, your body, and your soul. And don't forget, if you do have your own story to share, you can email me, joannewellth@gmail.com. You can reach out to me on Instagram, joanne_wealth. I'd love to have you on the show, or just share your story with me and I will share it to the other women that need to hear. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Every single one of those means the world to me.